there's not much that we could experience in terms of difficult or straining things on our marriage that I get worried about. I always know that it'll work out. When we got married 6 months early because of the diagnosis of cancer. I started chemotherapy 2 weeks after we got married. And so for 6 months I was very sick and grumpy and just surviving.
When we first got married, said, someday let's adopt. And I think in our minds, we thought, okay, we'll have biological children, and then someday down the road after that, we'll adopt. The whole process of getting pregnant and conceiving has just been really difficult for us. And in May, we said, let's pull the trigger. We're ready for this. We want this.
We're heading out. Flight leaves at 9:45 p.m. Taking the red eye. And the next couple days, couple hours, 24 hours, going to be an adventure.
Their faces are so interesting how they change, huh? Most agencies will tell you you have about a 2-year time frame before a child is placed in your home. I think 2 months into it, we got a call that this young lady wanted to meet us. And I think from the time we signed papers to start the adoption process to the time we brought Ariana home was like 3 months.
I would say at some point around week 4 or 5 when I saw the little Ari smile for her first time, and then when you start seeing her follow you with your eyes, or when you come home and you see her get excited, there's these moments where you know that she knows that you're a constant in her life. It was one of the first times where I understood the power of having 2 loving parents in the household. That was really a neat experience to see that through her eyes, and I'll never forget that. I grew up in a single parent home. My mom took care of my brother and I. Was adopted by my father early on, but he ended up being out of the picture for most of my life. And so I started hunting when I was 12 years old. My grandpa gave me a shotgun, and I just went out with some buddies and started doing it, and I loved it. But some of the memories I had was just, hunting without a dad and growing up without a father in my life, and just how, I had a lot of people that taught me how to hunt and people that took me under their wing and would take me out hunting. I couldn't help but reflecting on, our baby, Ari, in our life, and this whole adoption process and the wild emotions and just the crazy experience that adoption really is. So this year we had to cancel most of our hunting trips, and it was bittersweet. On one hand, it was definitely something that we were a little bummed about, but in comparison to this new adventure of our life that we'd never even dreamed of what to expect, we were pretty darn excited. One of the things that I did have was a tag for a local zone near my home in Redding, and a couple places to hunt, public land, a couple private spots. So I figured that I'd at least be a weekend warrior and see if I could find a way to get some meat in the freezer. 2015 was one of the worst droughts on record in the state of California. There wasn't a whole lot of water, which means there wasn't a lot of feed, and the blacktail deer in the unit that I was hunting stayed up in the high country till almost the end of the season. What I had hoped would be a quick and successful hunt to limit my time away from home ended up being a completely different story. Even though we weren't seeing deer, just being out there and seeing the sunrise, it was just incredible to be out there 20 minutes from my house and to be able to be out in the woods experiencing all of God's creation. It's something I enjoy doing very much. But it was a little sad this year for a few reasons. Number one, my wife wasn't with me. And number two, I was leaving baby Ari at home, and I was missing out on some of the first experiences of her life. One of these days I knew that I was gonna have to make a decision. We were gonna have to try another spot. And I decided to pack up and go to a piece of public land that I hadn't hunted since last year, late in the season. It's actually the place I shot my first buck when I was 15 years old. I had luck up there before, and I felt like it was definitely necessary to make a change. So we're gonna try public land today. Got a spot up here that we've seen a lot of deer in the past, and the sun's just coming up. We're just starting to make our way up a few of these hills, and in the past we've seen a lot of blacktail deer up here. It was still pretty hot out and the conditions weren't great, and so we weren't seeing any deer. And we were into the hunt probably 3 hours, and we come up over this ridge, and finally we spot a deer, and it happened to be a buck. And it was almost like it was too good to be true. We come up over this ridge, and there's this big drainage, and across the canyon we see a buck trotting, and he's about 300 yards away, and he is not slowing down. So I knew if this was going to happen, it was going to need to happen fast, and it could be my only shot for the entire season. Let's go find him, guys. Oh my God. Ready to make the long jaunt home. So this was the incredible ending of what was a really hard but very, very rewarding hunt for so many reasons for us. Not only did I shoot a buck on public land in an area that I shot my first buck when I was 15 years old, and I couldn't help but just thinking about the sacrifices here of all the hunts that we gave up and how much this deer meant to me. It was probably one of the most important hunts and the most memorable hunts I'll ever have. As I reflected on how different this year was for us and how different it would always be, I was extremely grateful. Ari was now the center of our universe and was bringing us a new sense of joy and purpose. By adopting Ari and being able to be parents for her, and the fact that we get to be stewarding her life and we get the privilege of raising her and loving her, it's just beautiful. That's really the motivation for me. It was not necessarily about my own story, because you don't know something's broken if you never had it, right? And that's okay. It's totally okay, and many other people have that, and the fact that I get to be this in her life is very, very cool.